Welcome to episode 182 of The Numbers Game. I'm Jace. I'm joined by Nick and Marty. How are we, fellas?
Going well, Jace. Been heading down to the dog park after work with about 20 canines just licking me, attacking me, thinking that as I get older, I must just smell better to dogs. I don't know what it is. I might be fermenting or something. Not sure, but giving off some sort of aroma. But no, it's good fun. Good to pat dogs. Happy days. Feeling good, getting out and about. Nick, how are you?
Oh, good. Good. I'm just picturing you fermenting. I can't even picture it, which is a good thing, I think.
I'm thinking, have I given off a stench? Because they're certainly...
No, I'm going good. I actually started watching a series the other day that you boys would love. Welcome to Wrexham. Have you been watching that?
Oh, no, it's on the list.
Unbelievable. Right up your alley, Marty, too. It's
what's it on?
It's on Disney,
on?
so
Disney.
Being a dog lover, you'd have Disney, I would have thought.
Yeah, I do. I like all those cartoon things, yeah.
It's about a struggling Welsh football club, and when I say football, I mean soccer. I'm not a soccer fan, but I'm really enjoying it. And Ryan Reynolds, the Hollywood movie star, and another guy, Ben, can't remember his surname, actually bought the club and bringing it back to its, or restoring it to its previous glory. It was once right up there as far as the professional league in the UK goes, and it's just dropped down to, I think I'm only in Series 1, and they've dropped out of the professional leagues, and they've been out for like 14 years, and these guys are coming in and pumping some money into it and rebuilding the whole club, but it's a good mix of sport, business, and culture, and the town relating to the club. Really, really good. Short episodes, so you can bang them out, move on, next one. It's good. Welcome to Wrexham.
I should have watched that instead of Baby Reindeer over the weekend, but that's a conversation for another day.
I've seen that.
Been told not to watch that.
We might leave that there. If you've been watching Baby Reindeer, let Nick know whether you think he should watch it or not. No, love it. Well, Marty, you've thrown an interesting conversation into the mix for today, and I'm excited to get into because, as business owners working with all different generations of employees, different ages and different people, it's often interesting to assess the different ways that we talk, the different ways that we treat each other, and the different behaviours. So why don't you lead us into what we're going to be unpacking today?
Yeah, I've just been having some reflection points over the last couple of months, and you tend to operate in a way that you operate based on the generations that you've been through. And for me, I'm a Gen Xer, but when we were coming through, it was very much, toe the line, do what you're told, get the job done, don't complain, and get the result. And I always thought it was a very sort of draconic way of operating, like even as a young person coming through. And you weren't allowed to have mental health back then. It was it was something that just you didn't bring up because you'd be virtually executed and victimized at the time. And it's got a hell of a lot better over time, and it's great now. But I just thought, I talked to a lot of leaders and managers, even my own age, and they're quick to jump on the Gen Zs, the ones that are coming through. So these are the people born between 1997 and 2012. And they're jumping on them more so from a point of view of, I think, not understanding them and thinking that things should be the way they want it to be as opposed to what the future looks like. And I'm fortunate enough that I'm a part of Innovate and I get to work with people of all ages, but in particular, we have Gen Xers coming through, and I couldn't be more impressed. And I'm adapting my own style and my own philosophies, my own thought processes in thinking, if this is the next generation coming through, how can I even learn from it? And how can I be a leader that fosters that growth for them? And so it's almost, changing my own management style to a certain degree. And I think that's what we need to do as leaders as we go from year to year, sometimes decade to decade, to go, how do we get the best of people? And I'm talking Gen Zs here, but that's, I guess, for everyone, right? How do you get the best out of an individual person? But I'm just noticing things that are different, like certainly in regards to them being much more entrepreneurial and more autonomous in getting a result. So I think you have a set of principles as a business that definitely have to be followed, but the Gen Zs want to express themselves within those principles. They definitely want to get the result. They definitely care about their mental health. They're much more open about talking about. I mean, it's incredible. Like, I'm one-on-one in an office, and as a part of a quarterly appraisal, we're talking about their mental health and how to optimize their mental health as a part of their performance. That just never would have happened. That just would not have happened 15, 20 years ago. And I think it's really encouraging that people can feel safe enough with a company to have that conversation and then to build strategy around what they're doing external to work to make them, really a happy, healthy achiever. And even in regards to outcomes, you need to be really clear on the metrics that you expect and that they're clear on the metrics that's expected. But sometimes as to how they get to them is uniquely innovative that a Gen Xer would just never think about. And it's really encouraging, and they embrace technology because they haven't had a world without technology being advanced. So even efficiencies, and I'll give you an example around this. Like, I mean, most of the dealings we had with clients back in our day was face to face, and we had deep rapport with clients. We built the relationship with them. We'd look after them, and they'd keep coming back and utilizing you as a trusted resource. Now, in this day and age, I had one of the brokers here have their first face-to-face meeting with a client, and they really enjoyed the meeting. They got a lot out of it. They experienced the rapport. They felt they had a deeper connection. And I said, well, how do you feel about going through that experience to how you conduct business? And they said, well, I think it's relevant in the right context, but based on efficiencies, but also expectations, you also have to read the play that some people that are Gen Zs only want to deal on the phone because they don't want to have that visual representation. It puts them under pressure because someone's looking at them. Then there are others that are happy doing Zoom calls that are building digital trust over Zoom face-to-face. But what I really like about this is it's evolving with the future of business, so they can still have the experience of the Gen Xer and take the good out of that experience and learn from it, but also, really intellectualize what's the best approach given, a set of circumstances and reading the client individually. So I like that entrepreneurial flair and intelligence. I admire those type of things in business owners, right, a lot of the times. But I'm seeing this come through in the younger generation. And once you've set the principles and you set the outcomes, they still want to perform. They still want to get their outcome. It's just they're really relevant in finding unique ways to be able to do that. And there are challenge points on it across all generations, no doubt. But I've just come around, I've come around in going, I need to be able to adapt too as a leader because, again, I want to foster this to create greater performance for the business, but also greater performance for them as individuals as well.
Just as you and he will know who he is because he listens to this podcast, but just as you were talking about all that, I was watching one of our Gen Zs laying on the couch. Where I am, you can see outside, laying on the couch in the sun, on the phone, legs on the couch, just completely in his element on the phone. So I don't know. I totally agree with you. It just so happened that he was sitting there at that time, and I was like, yeah, that's one there. But he's doing good things. So I think to your point, Marty, you have to. For me, it comes back to the results, right? So
correct.
If the results are there, then how can you really argue about how they get there or what they're thinking when they get there to a degree? I guess the challenge I have, and we've spoken about this in our own business, is, and this isn't what you talked about, but we do feel with younger generations, there is a level of entitlement there, and I don't know where that comes from. I think it's just a different upbringing, maybe. I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but I think as life has evolved, life has got a lot easier. If you look at our parents and what they went through, life was tougher. If you go back generations and generations, life was just harder. So the acceptance of what was available to them, or the acceptance of, conditions or, pay or whatever it was, I think the older generations felt just happy to have opportunities. Whereas the younger generation coming through, I think they've been given so much. And this is just an example. Like, you look at the kids, you look at what parents are doing these days for kids with holidays. Like, my friends that have got kids are taking them to places that, geez, I never went to until my mid-20s, because that just wasn't a possibility from an affordability point of view. It just wasn't the thing that was done. So I think the younger generations now are so exposed and have can access so many more things, that there is this level of entitlement that's there. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just they're just a product of the upbringing that they've had and their surroundings. So I think that's where the main difference is, from what I can see. And I think you just have to remind yourself of that sometimes. If you are a business owner and you are getting frustrated because you think, geez, they're entitled, you need to understand where they're coming from and the upbringing that they've had. Very different to the upbringing that we had, and then our parents and our grandparents had.
This is my challenge, because in a leadership HR meeting, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Nick, I stated I hated the word entitlement, because I felt like someone wanted something for nothing, right? And knowing how hard you work for what anything you accomplished back in the day was the right way to go about it. And I just thought, if I'm thinking that way, then what am I potentially losing in regards to people wanting to push the boundaries of innovation based off coming out of a better environment? And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I just thought, how do we foster this in a way that actually dramatically drives the business by creating a culture that embraces it? And I feel now, having done some reading on it, like, I felt a bit draconic in the statement based on what I feel like I went through. Everyone should have to experience, right? Because I went through it. And I think that's the challenge in different generations. And I go, but then, like you say, you still need boundaries around it where, it's not false expectation too, where, but I think that's the deliverable. I think that's where the clear communication comes in, going, this is what we're working towards. And if you can accomplish that, then, we're definitely working towards that. And it's coming from a personal driver, because I think this generation, if it doesn't suit them, they'll spit you out as quick as you'd want to spit them out if they were underperforming. It's like this, there's a new way that we can operate that can foster it. And like you said, I think I agree. As long as the result is attained, and they definitely want to get the result, there's no doubt about that. As long as the result is attained, then how can we nourish and actually really foster where this business could actually head because of it? Chase, I don't know if you're seeing anything of that sort. It's like, I don't know if I'm making any sense here, but I'm just expanding my own horizons.
You are, and I think as a business owner, sometimes when you're tired, you're stressed, you feel like you've worked so hard, and you've worked so hard to get to a certain point where maybe you're not getting that much out of the business right now, but you're in it for the long haul. And then it comes back to, the sense that you can look at a Gen Z and go, they're entitled, they want so much, they want fast career progression, they want quicker pay rises, they need the pay rises because they're seeing what other people are earning on TikTok and different careers and professions or industries. They got more access to more information than we ever had, and it comes to them faster. Their attention span is said to be shorter because they've grown up in a world where they're getting pinged with information left, right, and center on Instagram, Facebook.
But didn't we want that, Jace? Nick? Didn't we want that when we were younger? We were just scared because it was more draconian. You know what I mean? Like, I go, how can you accelerate as a collective? In regards to it.
Correct. And, you don't want to let me finish. That's fine. You want to start a
Sorry,
fire?
mate.
No. So
Go, mate.
what I was building up to was how I initially felt was like this little bit of negative, but maybe it comes from a place of jealousy, as you touched on, that, they do have fast information. They're jumping around all over the place. They're getting things done and they want to progress and want to push the boundaries. But what we can take from the benefits of that is they've grown up with technology. They've used technology more than what we have, while we were growing up. So if you actually get the most out of your Gen Z employees, you should have a tech-savvy environment where the innovation and the culture around innovating or using tech to improve your business systems and processes, if you empower the 26, 27-year-old and below right now, they know how to do things that we don't know how to do, but maybe they're not being empowered to implement these changes or to talk about how these changes could benefit the business. So we need to, as you said, foster a place where the innovative and creativity that these people have, their diverse ideas, their ideas of what's right and what's wrong, environmental policies, social justice and social norms. These are all things that maybe we overlook as business owners and go, well, what does our environmental policy matter? But maybe it does matter to have something that the next gen of future employees coming through really care about the environment, or they care about the hybrid model of being able to work from home sometimes or work from the office. So, if you don't take this into consideration, as a business owner, you're going to be missing out on all of these potential future employees that won't be looking at your place of employment as a potential suitor for what they need.
Yeah, I agree. I just think you have to get the balance right. And I'm going to give you a prime example here. We actually support a business or a group called Carbon Landscapes, and Carbon Landscapes, what they're basically trying to rejuvenate land and recreate the natural flora and fauna. I guess is the best way to describe it. So we've actually can contribute to a particular site which is in the Dandenongs that they're working on, and I guess a big push for that, from a business point of view, was, okay, well, we need to show people that we're aware of the environment and we want to contribute. We've also got things like Trace, about Trace, where we measure our carbon footprint. So what's been interesting is the Carbon Landscapes. Now, I presented it to the group a couple of times, and we've had Carbon Landscapes come and talk. But the engagement from our group on Carbon Landscapes, even our younger group, has been next to zero. And the whole idea of the Carbon Landscapes was to show people that we do care and give people the opportunity to get involved in Carbon Landscapes. And a couple of times we've put the feelers out if people wanted to get involved, and zero response, basically. And we're predominantly a Gen Z workforce in this business, I would suggest, Marty, give or take. So I think you've also got to be careful, because you can at times get caught up in this stuff as well. You can get caught up in being inclusive. You can get caught up in being all for the environment, to the point where it starts to take over what's the most important in the business. And I don't care what anyone says. The most important thing in the business is you've got more money in the bank at the end of the month than you had the month before, and you're making more than you're spending. So as long as it fits in those parameters, I'm really okay with anything. But I think where at times, and our business included, sometimes you get too caught up in that stuff and you don't come back to the raw and the most important thing. So you can be inclusive, you can do these other things, which is you need to still be focusing on the bottom line.
Yeah, and it's a good point, because again, testing the theory, it's like they're much more individual in their thinking. So I'm going, what we might do from a company perspective is doing the right things might not relate individually, because they're more self-driven. So, which is fascinating. So I don't know what the answer is, but I go, it's definitely something where, it's a bit of what's in it for them in regards to having meaning from themselves, linking it to the company. So like I said, I think the carbon footprint is, all that stuff we do is good stuff. But it's like, it's almost reshaping it as to what is important to the group coming through. And is that any different? I mean, I haven't asked the question, but it certainly opened my mind up, just even from the work from home stuff. like I said, in the past, I grew up in an environment, a work environment that you came to work, you generally would sit there 12 hours and get the job done and learn from each other. Now, again, that's still very relevant in learning from your peers and actually having community engagement and connecting. But is it relevant to be on a train for 2 hours a day when you could be writing up 3 deals and talking to 6 clients? Because you're not going to do that on the train. Or I mean, there's logic in the thinking in regards to, I love the autonomy, I love the flexibility, I love getting the job done. I don't want to be micromanaged, but I do want to have a set of boundaries and principles that I rise up and be my best self in. So it's a different tapestry. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just formulating in my own head the different individual drivers in Gen Z compared to even the millennials, who also, care about mental health and the environment as well. But yeah, it's interesting. It's challenging my own thinking, and as long as the result is achieved in a very legal, healthy, and way that grows the business, and the business is better for it, then what can we learn out of that situation to continue to evolve and become even more dynamic to where we are. So that's all I'm sort of throwing up here.
You just have to adapt, though, Marty. To your point earlier, like it's really adapt or die, because our industry is a great example. The initial pioneers of the industry, our industry became an industry in the early 2000s. So if you look at early 2000s, so 20 odd years ago, 20 to 24 years ago, most people that came through that industry were probably in their 30s starting businesses. So a lot of people are now 55 to 60 years old, and they're moving out of the industry. They're retiring and they're doing other things. So if you don't adapt and have a good environment for Gen Z to come through and to prosper, then your business is pretty much dead. So, I get what you're saying, and it's difficult and it can be hard for people to accept if they're not Gen Z and they've brought up in the school of hard knocks. But if you don't adapt, your business isn't going to grow. And I'm one that I'm a living example of younger people that have come into this business, particularly from a systems and processes point of view, and taken it to a new level, and a level that I couldn't have taken it to. And without them, we wouldn't be where we are, because I wouldn't have the confidence to continue to grow the business. So
definitely,
if you're not adapting and you're not giving, or you're not creating an environment for those people to prosper, then your business will die. There's just no no two ways about it.
It's something that we talk about. As said, I'm on this previous episode, CPA Public Practice Committee. So I go to meetings with the CPA and talk about, careers and the future of the accounting industry. And one of the biggest issues we're facing is the attraction of getting Gen Z to be interested in becoming accountants, or to be interested in industries that are now becoming, less the flavor. And, the problem around that was the image of the industry, boring, in an office, long hours, falling behind in the use of technology and AI, the benefits of work-life balance. Again, like historically, being an accountant or working in professional services is not being promoted through Gen Z. And, that's one of the biggest challenges that we're going to have, is how to increase visibility that there is a great career pathway in a career like an accounting career, and what that looks like for the future. So there's definitely some challenges out there, and, where Gen Z are going, they are the future of our workforce. We're going to need to be hiring more of them over the years. So what, as a profession for accounting, or just in general, if you're a business owner, what are you doing to shape your business to be, to be an attractive place for someone who's Gen Z to come and work?
Yeah, it's a really good point. It could revolutionize industries, really, along with technology. It's I'm excited to see how it all pans out. And like you said, Nick, it's always an evolvement business, and I think there's some probably older business owners there that have to think about putting people in senior positions that are younger to foster this. And why I say that is, the beauty of it is they're very open to mentorship. They're very open to growing, but they're not going to suffer fools either too. So it's like They will take what's available and individualize it in their own ways to create a better result, because they feel like they're in control of that themselves, which is great. That's how you want people to be. You want people to learn and apply to keep improving. So it's to some of the older business owners out there, I would definitely encourage to think about people in different generations, coming through that are closer to the next wave coming through, to really optimize it and don't leave that opportunity on the table, because as we know, life goes on, business goes on, and you keep growing, you keep learning. But it's been really, really good. I've really been refreshed at the work ethic, and also just the application of new ideas in new ways that are actually moving the needle out there in the market. And I think even in this type of more challenging environment, the energy of the Gen Zs coming through are finding ways to extract opportunity, build relationships in new ways, that is really paramount to growth in business and growth across all businesses. So it's so don't just discount it and just come with a fixed idea on it. Like sometimes we can, as we get older, and we like to have things in our certain boundaries that we understand. Be open, because as a leader and as someone that's older and been through different generations, I keep learning. I learn from the millennials, the Gen Xers, like I learn throughout, and the Gen Zs, and it's really refreshing, and it keeps you sharp too, and it and that's a great level of personal development across all these generations, which is what perspective's all about. So it's it's pretty exciting.
I love it. Definitely giving us lots to think about, and you're always bringing these interesting topics to the table for us to discuss on the numbers game. So for anyone out there who has listened, if you are working with Gen Z employees, or if you are Gen Z and you've got something you'd love to share with Nick, Marty and I, please connect on LinkedIn. You're probably more likely to be on Instagram or TikTok or one of those things if you are the Gen Z who wants to reply and send us some things. Marty, we did teach him how to use Instagram, so if you want to send your messages through there, Marty, we know gets on once a week.
Or TikTok.
Or TikTok. Get connect with Marty on TikTok. Now, we'd love to hear your thoughts. And look, when it comes to Gen Z in the workplace, it's not just about keeping up with the times, but we need to set the pace for the future. So we've got some interesting years ahead. Thank you for joining us on the Numbers Game. Like, subscribe, follow, jump on YouTube. Nick still looks glorious as always. But until next time.
Hey, you're keeping me young, lads. Keep it up. Game over.
This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The conversations are of a general nature and do not qualify as financial or tax advice. We recommend before you make any financial decisions, you consult a licensed professional. Individuals on the podcast may hold positions in the companies discussed.